It's no secret that I absolutely love the Osmo Action 4. I've been banging on about this little camera since it was released just over 2 years ago. And the image quality still blows me away every time I use it. I even took it to Thailand recently, even though I had the Action 5 Pro and the new Action 6 with me. And in my Action 5 versus Action 6 comparison video, all of the talking head shots that so many people loved were actually filmed on the Action 4. I've linked that video in the description if you want to see what it looks like in a proper vlogging setup. But as much as I do love the Osmo Action 4, there is one situation where I would definitely leave it at home without even thinking. And instead, I'd reach for the Osmo Action 5 Pro or the new Action 6 instead. Let me explain. If you've watched my channel for a little while now, you will have definitely heard me say cameras are tools. You pick the right tool for the job. So if you've got a few cameras and you're actually using them for their specific use cases, I'll allow it. But if you're just hoarding cameras as an excuse to start, pick one of them up and go and make a damn video already. Seriously. Now, because I do this full time and I get access to a lot of gear, I've been able to figure out what each camera is actually good at and where it struggles. And one of the big things for me, which might be a thing for you as well, is how well one camera matches another one. So here's a really common example. Let's say you're filming a YouTube video or a project. You're using a mirrorless camera for your main talking head, so you can get that nice sharp image and blurry background. But at the same time, you want some quick POV footage or some behind the scenes footage, and that's where an action camera is perfect because it's tiny and it's easy to mount. So now you've got two different cameras recording the same scene. You get into the edit and this is where it gets a little bit annoying. Your main camera footage looks one way and your action camera footage looks completely different, maybe more contrasty, different color, skin tones are off, and when you cut between the footage, it just doesn't quite match. You can fix it by hand, but if you're busy and you're really on a tight schedule or you just don't like faffing around, much like me, if you know me, then you don't want to be fiddling around with color wheels and adjustments and trying to really fine-tune the look until they match exactly for consistency. This is the exact situation where I just will not pick up the Action 4 deliberately, and instead I will choose the Action 5 Pro or the new Action 6. Not because the image is necessarily better, that's debatable in different scenarios, but rather because the D-Log-M color profile in the Action 5 Pro and the Osmo Action 6 is definitely superior to that of the Action 4 due to the dynamic range updates. If you don't know what on earth I'm talking about, basically D-Log-M is a color profile that allows you to shoot a flat, washed out image so that you can then make the footage look exactly how you want by making certain adjustments. The opposite of that is shooting in the normal color profile, which already has contrast, color and saturation, and it just makes the footage ready to use as it is without needing any adjustments to the footage first. Now, if I'm using my Sony a7S III, which I'm filming on at the moment, and I shoot in S-Log3, which is its equivalent of the Action camera's D-Log-M, I need a quick way to match both the Sony camera and the Action camera, since their profiles are completely different. And the easiest and quickest way to do that is to use a plugin that I've been using for probably about 8 years, and it's a plugin that I use all the time, and it's Cinematch by Film Convert. I can make the footage from my Sony camera and my Action camera look like they were both shot on the same camera in just a few clicks. Let me show you. So the first thing I do is add Cinematch to each of the camera profiles. So I'm going to drop it on the Sony and I'm going to drop it on the Action 5 footage. So the Action 5 is the one that's on the bottom channel and the Sony's on the top. So basically the Sony's on the right and the Action 5 is on the left. So I've added Cinematch to both of those. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that the Sony footage is exposed correctly. So go to Open Controls on Cinematch. Just drag this over here. And then I'm going to select my camera profile. So Sony a7S III, and I shot in S-Log3. So I'm going to scroll down to where it says exposure and exposure false colors, and skin tone is selected. That's what I want, because when I turn it on, you're going to see that the image has gone orange, grey and white. And what I want to do is make sure that I don't really have any of the grey, like the light grey, the white on my skin. So I'm going to reduce the exposure until that pretty much disappears. and then that pretty much means that the exposure is correct. Then I'm going to go over to the Action 5 footage, just make sure that that's selected, and I'm going to go back up to where it says choose your source camera. So it was the DJI Action 5 Pro shot in D-Log-M, and now this is where I'm going to match it to the Sony footage. So if you have a look, the D-Log-M footage looks very different to the Sony footage. So I'm going to choose my target camera, which was the Sony A7S III and S-Log3. So as you can see, it's very close to what the Sony now looks like. So if I just show you the before and after. So this is without Cinematch and this is with Cinematch. The only thing that I can see is that the blacks are a little bit muted. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom and I'm going to look at my levels, and I'm literally going to pull my levels in a little bit. And that looks pretty similar. Now, one of the things that you can do just to see how closely they're matched is you can apply this Rec 709 transformation. So that basically just converts it from being flat footage to a normal color space. So if I apply that on the Action 5 footage, that's what it looks like. And then apply it also to the S-Log3 footage, that's what it looks like. You can see they are very similar in how they look. It's pretty awesome. So once the cameras are matched with Cinematch, there are two other plugins that I use to kind of finish off the look. So the first plugin is Film Convert Nitrate, and when I tell you I love this plugin, I'm not exaggerating. Honestly, like I said, discovered it about 8 years ago, and I use it for every video when I'm shooting with my Sony a7S III, or when I'm matching footage, or I've matched footage and then I want to have a consistent look across all the footage. And the reason I love Film Convert Nitrate so much is because I can get a really natural film-like look in my footage, and I just love it. So now that both cameras are matched, I can just apply one film emulation and put it across the entire timeline, and it will make the footage look as intended across both the Sony a7S III and the Action 5 Pro. So the last plugin is one that I'll sometimes add as the final touch, and I do this if I want the footage to look a little bit softer and a little bit more delicate, if you like, not so digital. Think of it like a digital mist or diffusion filter. Normally, you'd have to add that kind of a filter in front of your lens while you're filming, but with Hazy, you can decide later in the edit, and then you control how strong that look is. And it just means that you're not baking that look into your footage at the time of filming, so you have a lot more control and you can dial in the strength as much or as little as you want, instead of having to figure out what strength of mist filter or diffusion filter you need at that very moment, and then realizing actually the strength was a little bit too much or just not quite enough. And again, because I've used Cinematch to match the Sony a7S III footage to the Action 5 Pro footage, I can apply Hazy across all the clips and it will behave as normal and look consistent throughout the video. Now, what I'm about to say next, I'm not saying just because Film Convert is sponsoring this video. I genuinely rate these plugins. Like I said, I have been using them for years, 8 years at least. Whenever I started doing video and I discovered Film Convert Nitrate and used it on the very first mini documentary that I filmed, that was when I discovered it. So yes, I absolutely recommend them to anyone who will listen. And I talked about them in my videos so many times because honestly, they are such a massive part of my workflow. So if you want to try them out, you can download any of the plugins and get full access to all the features and the settings. The only catch is that you'll have a watermark on your footage until you buy the license, but that is not going to stop you from seeing what the look is going to be when you play around with the different settings and the different sliders and whatnot. And if you do end up liking them as much as I do, then you can get 10% off when you use my code. So I've dropped a link in the description along with that code. So I hope this video helps when you want to match footage between different cameras and speed up your workflow. It really does massively help to speed up your workflow. So if the video did help, do give it a like, and I will catch you in the next video.